Okay, so now let's take a look at the pedagogical consideration of why we choose this literary work for the medium in our language instruction. First, in relation to Kurikulum 2013, as we know that KAT13 adopts several aspects of experiential learning model, and considering that, there are aspects we have to really pay attention to, not only the technical aspect but also the emotional aspect. So here I would like to bring the theory proposed by Moon that feelings can be used as a tool for learning, but it can also be studied without experiencing them. So by using this work, by using The Wind in the Willows, we would like learners to feel the friendship among the characters there without having them experiencing it. So they just have to study the relationship among the characters, despite the fact that they do not live in pastoral era in Edwardian English. So the second one, based on this theory also, this story is very much engaging. It is quite interesting for learners, because even for busy persons like Theodore Roosevelt and Milne, the writer of Winnie the Pooh, this story brings them something that they really believe that it is enjoyable. Even Roosevelt admitted that he read this story aloud in his office. Well, imagine if we bring the story into the classroom. Perhaps it may influence the learners, especially teenagers who are very keen on establishing friendship. It is really engaging, as we might encourage them to associate the characters with their own friends in the real world. Of course, the anthropomorphized characters like the rat and the mole with the toad, they grumble about each other's attitude, but in the end they were still friends and they helped each other. This can be related back to learners' life experiences, by means that we ask learners to associate which of your friend you feel like the rat, or if a person like Toad do exist in the real world, then which type of friend is it? Which friend of yours is identical to the toad? Just ask that kind of question. That is very educating. And the next, yes, it is based on the consideration that the writer himself admitted the rat was inspired by his own friend, Sir Arthur Quiller Couch. So it is not wrong to associate the characters with the real persons in our real lives. And the next consideration is, we might expect this story to enhance the learning process by promoting the feeling of security, trust, and comfortability among class members. You know, teenagers in language class have a problem with anxiety, because whenever they have to produce a new language, they might feel afraid to look silly. They feel so insecure, afraid of others' judgment toward themselves. So here, by bringing this story, there is a moral value that we can learn. It is the value that no matter what happens to you, no matter what your friends have done to you, you can always remake, you can always fix your friendship. So friendship is not it is not the ultimate graceful thing, the flawless one. No, it's not flawless. It can be flawed somehow, but it can always be fixed. Okay, so more linguistically, I would argue that by doing this, we facilitate language acquisition by lowering the affective filter, as Krashen suggested. And in terms of using this as a task, allow me to use Skehan's theory about task complexity here. In TBLT, of course, we understand that there are theories like Robinson and Ellis, Noonan, but I prefer Skehan here because it is a lot simpler and a lot more realistic. The first one, I consider the code complexity of this story. It is not too complex that learners at B1 CEFR level can perhaps reach 70 to 80% of coverage, because this story is not really lexically demanding. Then, in terms of cognitive complexity, I believe that this story does not require much background knowledge because cultural elements are not very much dealt with by the writer, but it is the friendship and the common attitudes in our daily lives that become the emphasis of this story. So, as it does not require background knowledge, extensive background knowledge, I mean, it is not cognitively demanding. It is not so complex. And this kind of discourse also, based on the kind of the text, this kind of discourse is not as unfamiliar as the poems to our Indonesian learners. You know that when we use poems, English poems and Indonesian poems have lots of differences, but in terms of short story and teenage or children novel, we can't see such differences. Okay, and the last one here, this story has a very familiar, predictable topic and flow. So yeah, the cognitive demand is very low, therefore. And the last one, the communicative stress. I believe that the communicative pressure of this story is the most difficult thing learners should deal with. The length, despite only 200 pages in length, but hello Indonesian learners, even university students of master degrees do not like reading. So 200 pages, despite the really enjoyable story and nice characters, might still be burdensome for our learners. Yet, when teachers can really divide this into chunks, I think the communicative pressure wouldn't be the issue in implementing this story in our instruction. That's my part. It will be continued by another person talking about the procedure. That's it. Thank you.